Hello, my name is Shay and I talk about mental health here on YouTube. So today I'm going to be talking about what it was like growing up with undiagnosed OCD. So let's get started. I have had OCD since I was about 7 years old, and first and foremost, I want to say I get deeply offended every single time people use OCD as an adjective because it is not one. I grew up full of anxiety and fear and convinced that I was a monster because of my OCD. And to this day, I pull at my fingers, like at my nails, at my skin around my nails. I do all these little things that control my life. These behaviors control my life, and it is because of my OCD. And I do not think it is a quirk. I don't think it's cute, and OCD is not an adjective. So you can say someone is very organized, or if they like to clean, they like to clean a lot. Cool, cleaning is great, especially right now with COVID and everything, but it is not so OCD. There are different kinds of OCD, and one of them has to do with cleaning. The other ones do not. And for me, mine is not focused around cleaning. So I, as a person with OCD, typically have a messy room. I do get into these obsessive modes where like I have to clean, and then I will clean for like 2 or 3 hours straight. But that happens every few weeks. And in between those weeks, my room's a mess. So people with OCD sometimes can be the messiest people, especially because a lot of times people with OCD also have depression, anxiety, some other kind of mental illness. And as someone who has lived with depression for a big portion of her life, I know that a lot of times I just don't have the energy to clean. I just don't freaking care. So that is that. I don't want to be yelling at the camera this entire video. That's not the point of this. I do want to say that it is almost 1 a.m. and just excuse my face, please. I, once again, as a person who lives with depression and typically is not in a talkative mood, typically is not in a good mood, typically does not have a lot of energy, I have a lot of energy right now. This usually happens at night. I love that it's dark outside. I love that like my house is quiet and I can just be in my room and it's lit. So we have eyeshadow, a lot of eyeshadow there. It goes up to our forehead, but like luckily you can't see that. So that is that. We are not here to talk about my face, thank the Lord. We are here to talk about OCD. So I have had OCD since I was 7 or 8 years old, but I actually was not diagnosed until a few months ago. It is like July 3rd when I'm filming this, so it has been almost a year of me being on mental health medication, and it once again has like, it's only been a few months of me actually being on a medication for OCD because I just remember in high school being uber depressed, like so depressed and empty and numb, and I am now realizing that I experienced all those things because of my OCD. My OCD makes me anxious, my OCD makes me stressed, but my OCD also caused my depression. My OCD just took so much for me, honestly, and I'm not here to complain. I'm just here to share my story and talk because I did not know it was OCD because the media has pushed such a specific view of OCD, and I grew up thinking I was a monster because of my OCD. I grew up constantly anxious because of my OCD, and it is one of the reasons why I do not find it funny when someone uses OCD as an adjective, because they literally took my childhood away from me. So I really don't want to be yelling at the camera the entire time because that's not the point of this. I just really do want to educate. I do group therapy, and when I was talking about my intrusive thoughts, that's actually when one of the girls said, oh my god, like that's not normal. And so yeah, I didn't know that this isn't normal. I can distinctly remember being in my school gymnasium at 7 or 8 years old, and my brain was telling me to stand up and like jump and scream and make loud noise and just, you know, disrupt everyone, and it scared me. Like, I wanted to do anything except that, but the thought kept getting louder and louder, and I became convinced that I was going to do that. And so I was squeezing my hand, I was biting my lip, and I ended up like just crying in the gymnasium, but like quietly, so I don't think anyone. One of the teachers saw, and she like asked if I was okay, and I was just like, yeah. But I wasn't. Most of my childhood, I looked okay on the outside while I was battling just mega stuff on the inside. I was battling myself. I can remember in middle school having thoughts about throwing a stapler at my teacher, about pushing different people, about yelling, about, once again, like if my teacher was teaching and the room was quiet and everyone was focused on her, I had thoughts about disrupting the class and standing up and just making a ruckus. And that is not me. I do not, despite this look, I do not like to draw attention to myself. I do not disrespect people. I grew up having just this anxiety about how people perceived me, and if I was mean, if I was this, if I was that. And I mean, everyone grows up with that some kind of level, but I could tell that mine was deeper than anyone else. I was constantly just terrified that I was going to accidentally say something bad, or I was going to somehow disrespect a teacher. And that is, I've seen posts on Instagram, and I'm going to try and insert a few, but I've seen them where it talks about your OCD goes after, it represents like what you're against. So a lot of people, like if they focus on religion and like good values, they will have dark thoughts because it is exactly what they're against. And you're like, the OCD wants to cause anxiety in you, it wants to cause fear. That's like what keeps it going. And yeah, for me it was just hurting someone or being mean to someone, and I never told anyone because I think some level of me knew that like other people weren't really dealing with this, and I've just never been one to really speak up when I needed stuff. And I don't know what caused that. It's something that I'm exploring in therapy, but it's something my OCD really focuses on. And I just remember being so anxious as a child, and I remember being in the car and wanting to like change the gear and just doing dangerous things. I grew up just having these awful thoughts, terrified that I was going to act on them. And I grew up just not believing myself. And by that I mean, if I set my alarm, I'd be like, wait, did I actually set it? And then I'd have to check again. But the anxiety would still be there, so I'd check again. And this could go on for 5 or 10 minutes. In high school, I had to wear my keys like around my neck, because if I didn't, I was checking my backpack over and over and over again to make sure my keys were still in there. Sometimes I have trouble believing myself, trusting myself, and believing that things are real. So I used to live up north for a bit, and one time when I was in the city, I was holding a bag, and it had a lot of important stuff. I had bought some books and a t-shirt and just a lot of really good things, and I was convinced that I was going to lose it. And I could feel the weight of holding the bag, and I could feel the bag against my fingers, and I could see it when I was looking down as I was walking, but I had to keep touching it because I still couldn't trust myself that it was there. And like, I was delivering flowers to someone, and I had to keep looking over at them and touching them while I was driving to deliver the flowers. And it's just so exhausting, because if I don't double check, triple check, quadruple check, then the anxiety is still there. But even after the double, triple, even after checking 10 times, the anxiety is still there. And honestly, for me, the anxiety doesn't go away until the situation is over. So like, if I go to, obviously before COVID, but I go to Barnes & Nobles all the time, and I would always go to the cafe. And so if I had to, say there was a line, until I got to the front of the line and was able to pay and saw that the transaction went through, I would keep counting my money. I would keep checking my bank account until I was at the front of the line. Not even that, but until my transaction went through. So I would place my order as quickly as I possibly could so she could charge me and so I could be done with it. I hate shopping. I cannot explain it. If the line was 20 minutes long, I would be standing there for 20 minutes counting my money over and over again. Even if I had a $20 bill and I was buying a coffee. Coffee is expensive, but not that expensive. I would keep counting it. Not even counting it. I would just keep the anxiety of like, well, what if it isn't enough? Even though it's a $20 bill for a cup of coffee. I would not feel okay until I got my money back. Like, you know, I gave her the 20, or him, and they gave me my receipt and my money, and until then I would feel anxious. Okay, so I had to pause the video. I started this channel so I would have a platform to talk about my mental health and to talk about when I'm okay, but also when I'm not okay. And right now, I'm not really okay. If you hear fireworks, I am sorry. It is almost 4th of July. It's 4th of July tomorrow. I'm not celebrating because I do not feel patriotic in the slightest this year. This country, there's nothing to celebrate about this country, but that's a whole different story. But my OCD is getting bad around this video because I want to keep redoing it. If you can tell my stuttering, this is a side effect of, not a side effect, it's a symptom of having depression. Is having trouble speaking, and I'll probably put a note in the beginning of this video because it's really bad. But I just keep wanting to redo the video, and it's past 1 a.m. I am going through medication changes. For the first time since starting mental health medication almost exactly a year ago, I am going off of my Lexapro, not cold turkey, but slowly and safely, and I am starting on Prozac, and I'm excited. My psychiatrist said Prozac does amazing for people, and I do want to say that medication is different for everyone. It's a science, but it's also not, because it doesn't work for everyone, and that is okay. And if Prozac doesn't work for me, then we will try a different medication. And you know, if this process takes weeks, months, years, I need it. My head hurts so much right now, and I'm just tired. I'm tired of constantly having to do these little rituals to get rid of this anxiety, even though it doesn't get rid of the anxiety. The anxiety is still there. And I'm tired of not having people who understand, because no one in my family has OCD. And I know a few people who do, but it's not just it's not as easy as like just stop thinking that, because that's not how it works. My brain is empty right now. I really think the medication is just really taking over my brain right now. I will probably end up uploading this video because I want my channel to be honest, even if, I don't know, I just want this to be a place where I can talk when I'm okay and not okay, and I want to educate people. And the medication is kind of just acting weird right now, but that is okay, because my body is adjusting to going off of Lexapro and going on this new thing. So I want to thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. If you have OCD, I see you, I hear you. You are absolutely valid, and I am so sorry that our brains are like this, because I know it doesn't make you a burden, but OCD in itself is a burden, and carrying it is really rough. So if you're doing that, I see you, I hear you, I'm proud of you, and you are an absolute hero of mine. If you're battling any mental illness, you are an absolute hero of mine. If you had trouble getting out of bed this morning, you are an absolute hero of mine. Thank you for being here. You are 1000% valued and loved, and I see you. You are not invisible, and you matter so much. So I'm gonna go take off this makeup and go to bed. The end.